Welcome to the latest episode of Paleteras con Chile. These are our more intimate episodes of Las Paleteras, where we're able to have conversations with amazing change makers, including community leaders like our guest today. I'm so grateful to get to talk to Los Angeles Council member Eunisses Hernandez today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be joining you today. And in this space and in this role, we've known each other for several years, and you've supported me along the way. So I'm grateful to be here on your platform, talking about the work we've done with your people.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, we were speaking earlier about how one thing that's still true for us over the years, and I, like you said, I've had the honor and privilege of getting to know you and supporting you before your first term, is that our passion is community building and being there and uplifting our community. So I'm excited to get to talk to you. I'm excited for folks that don't know you to introduce you and your work to the audience. So for those not familiar or those not in LA, I'm going to read your bio so people can learn a little bit more about the work that you've done. And I'm going to read the longer one because I want people to know, like, sometimes people are like, what do elected officials do? And there's a lot that you've done in your district. So Eunisses is the LA City Council member for District 1, the proud daughter of immigrants, and herself a lifelong District 1 resident and community organizer. Before joining City Hall, she worked to fight jail expansion, challenge the prison industrial complex, and advocate for alternatives to incarceration and policing. Since taking office, she has become a leading voice in Los Angeles for reimagining public safety and advancing a care-first agenda. Her work includes expanding the city's unarmed crisis response program, passing major tenant protections and rent caps, co-authoring the Sanctuary City Ordinance, launching the city's first district-wide community defense program, and creating a mobile overdose response unit in MacArthur Park that helped reduce overdose deaths among unhoused residents by 32%. So you just gotta give a pause for that. Aplausos, right? So people that are asking, what has Eunisses done? You just heard a very long paragraph of some of the major things that she's done. So I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would add about who you are to that bio? And this can also be like your most random hobby, tu comida preferida, the last novela you watch, lo que tú quieras, but anything that's not in that bio that you feel is important for people to know about you.
Well, I think one of the things I want to share is, one, like, I'm a Korn fan. I'm a new metal fan. I'm an emo music fan. And so just a little bit about me on that. I love animals. I love critters. I love dogs. But also what drives me in doing all of that work is, I am a daughter of Mexican immigrants. I have had my family members in regular jails and immigrant jails and prisons, and those moments are what have driven me to try to fight for justice and be a voice for folks. So I think, I'm also a survivor of sexual violence. It's all these experiences for me that have pushed me to do this, because this is not easy work. It's much easier to work in the back, and trying to change things in different spaces, but putting yourself in the front of the line so everybody can put a magnifying glass on everything you do. It's difficult, but it's worth the fight for our community. So that's what drives me. But, I love comedy. I love magic shows.
Okay.
And so just, I'm a regular human being.
You're a real human. She's a real human, y'all, just like us.
Yeah.
But with one of the hardest jobs in the city of LA. So también. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really stood out to me when I first heard you speak, and this was when you were running for your first term, is that you spoke with such realness and passion, where I actually felt like you were a real community member from the community that you were fighting for. Mm-hmm. And that feels strange, right? Because that felt so refreshing, and that's sad that felt refreshing. But I had felt like so many times I had heard other candidates that were, speaking about these communities that they, represented, but it felt very performative. I felt like a disconnect between them and the community members that they said they were fighting for. And I think hearing you, I actually could really sense that community organizing, and you're a longtime community organizer. I could sense that you were bringing that to this role, because you actually were in the trenches with the community. It didn't feel like you were speaking for them, but you were speaking with them. And I think obviously that energy resonated with a lot of folks, and, landed you in one of the most important roles in the city. Yeah.
Yes. And we still do that now. I have someone on my team who does what's called co-governing. And so she just builds with our community-based organizations. Because when I ran the first time, I said, it's not me going into City Hall. Mm-hmm. It's we. Yeah. And so we're training up people from MacArthur Park, Pico Union, bring them into City Hall so they can get public comment on their budget. that's the kind of thing of like, when I came in, everybody's coming with me too.
Yeah, definitely. Um, as you mentioned in your bio, you're a lifelong CD1 resident, right? And so folks might not be familiar. This district, and correct me if I'm wrong, but includes areas in Northeast LA, Central, and also downtown adjacent. Some of those communities include Highland Park, Echo Park, Chinatown, parts of Koreatown, and one area that's been getting a lot of attention lately, Westlake, and that includes MacArthur Park. But that's a very diverse area with a lot of very different constituents that you represent. So I just want to give kind of like a face to this very diverse area and very different needs in very different communities, just so folks know what CD1 really entails. So I'd love to know a little bit about where you grew up and maybe a memory or place that you can share that speaks to what it was like to grow up in district in CD1. And also you spoke to it a little bit, how that maybe inspired you to run for office and still be in office today.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Highland Park and have lived here my entire life, and that's a real privilege because
Yeah.
Highland Park it wasn't always what it is now, and during when the recession hit in 2008, and even leading up to that and after that, I've had a lot of family and friends who have had to move to Riverside, Palmdale, the Valley, because they can no longer afford to live here, and those experiences we went through and we saw and we felt, but what I started seeing more was like, oh, the señoras picking up the cans from the recycling bin, digging through the trash, trying to collect these cans so that they can pay their rent. That's when I started seeing another wave of these are the next folks that are on the chopping block of no longer being able to afford to live in this city. And when I saw during COVID-19 that the leadership really didn't step up and set long-term sustained policies and programs and essentially was just selling off the district piece by piece to market and luxury rate developers, I recognize like these señoras, my neighbors are not going to survive another
Yeah.
4 years under this leadership. They're not going to afford it. So that's what made me want to run. And it's why I continue to fight every day. I don't take certain dollars, special interest group, oil money, corporation money, hotel money, because I'm not fighting for them. I am fighting for these folks who are the ones who've always been on the menu, but never at the table of power. And that's why I stay because this work is very hard. But what refuels my soul is when we go out there and talk with our seniors, talk there and with the families that are living in our neighborhoods. And MacArthur Park is the heart of my district and is the densest neighborhood west of the Mississippi. And the only
Wow.
backyard and front yard to the thousands of families that live there is MacArthur Park. And that's why I've hyper focused on there. We've done a lot, and it would take like an hour to tell you everything, but we've
Right.
invested in the infrastructure, polarizing lights. We brought in a brand new play ground. We're bringing in trees. We're bringing in um, water features to make the park more welcoming. We reduced overdose deaths by 32% in that one zip code, which is the epicenter of overdose deaths in the county of LA. As the second busiest train station stop, which is the MacArthur Park train station, 22,000 people go through it every day. Half a dozen major bus lines. So a lot of people come in and go in this neighborhood, but it's a gem and it's a treasure. And so I'll leave it at that. But it's a top priority for me because again, these are the folks who have always been on the menu and never been at the table
Yeah,
because they
no, and
haven't been
that's
allowed to.
right. That's a really a powerful statement. And I guess just because we're on that topic, but
Mhm.
what would you say to folks that say that you're focusing on the wrong things in MacArthur Park? Because I think that seems to be a big focus of a lot of the attacks that we're seeing, right?
Yes. Well, what I'll say is that when I came in, this this one zip code of MacArthur Park was experiencing the highest number of overdose deaths than any other part in the county of LA. And people were dying on the street. So when I got in, my first job was to put out that fire, trying to prevent people from dying on the streets. The trash, the amount of trash in that area. MacArthur Park has not received the level of city services that it deserves. I've been fighting for more alleyway cleaning, more trash collection. So there's certain things as a council member I have full power over. The
Yeah.
trash, the lights, infrastructure. And by that I mean I can find the resources and bring the departments together to execute the work. I am not law enforcement. I cannot enforce the law. That is not my job. And I can't tell LAPD what to do. So I can't say, LAPD, don't do this, or LAPD, go do that. The city constitution, which is called the charter, does not allow me to do that. And so when people are saying you're not focusing on the right things, I'm focusing on the things that I have power over. I can't stop the international drug trafficking that is happening on this continent. I can't do that. That's not part of my job. We have law enforcement, that is their job, federal government's job. So I focus on where I can, which is the infrastructure, the cleanliness, uplifting the quality of life through these investments. And is it enough so far? No. But is it more than any other moment? Yes. We have brought in $27 million worth of these various investments. And if people want to know where that comes from, I can. Most of it comes from private health insurance. So we can bring in street medicine teams. We're building a health hub in that area to provide health resources. So I love MacArthur Park. And the last thing I'll say with this is that in 2015, over 10 years ago now, I tried to bring a drug diversion program to that area in 2015. And the city attorney, the council member at the time, did not want to move this forward. And so I had to take this program to Long Beach, and now the county is implementing this program all over. And now as a council member, I was able to bring it to MacArthur Park. But that is all to say that I've been trying to resolve the issues of MacArthur Park for over a decade, even before I was a council member, because I saw the tragedy that it's still happening, but not at the rate that it was. And it's going to get better. I've only been in office for 3 years and 6 months.
Yeah.
And my predecessors have had decades of time, and we're still with this mess. So I would just hope people would, allow me to continue to move these proven models forward. Because it is just trash collection, pressure washing. That when you do that, when you can remove the graffiti fast, that uplifts the quality of life. And that's what I've been fighting for too for MacArthur Park.
Yeah, no, thank you for speaking to that. This is just so much more complex than sometimes people paint things out to be as well. Because that's what people do sometimes in elections, right? Minimize situations that are so much bigger. One of my questions was going to be, I think that folks don't always know what can city council members do and not do. People don't know the delineation between different city and county roles. So I think you spoke to it a little bit. Is there anything else that maybe you could add that maybe folks don't know? Maybe they think city council members can do, or anything that people might be surprised to learn about your role?
Yes. Well, one thing I'll say is that the city of LA, we don't have a health department, a mental health department, public health department, or health services department. All of that infrastructure lives within the county of Los Angeles. And street vending is governed by LA County. Street vending permits are governed by LA County. People oftentimes think that it's the city council member that has authority over that. That is not the way that the law was written. We in the city, I've worked to reduce the amount that the permits cost, but down to less than $28 for our street vendors that are selling merchandise. And I'm hoping, I'm trying to get the county to move in the same direction, but that's a big piece. I have street vending all over on my council district, and it's what helps families survive. These are micro entrepreneur businesses that we need to be supporting. But there is a clear what the city is responsible for and what LA County is responsible for there. And we just need to work closer on that issue. Another piece that I want to uplift when it comes to homelessness and when it comes to people who are experiencing homelessness and they have mental health needs, problematic substance use, or maybe they have both, right? There isn't thousands of beds available for these services. There's not even hundreds of beds open and available for these services. And so when people say, like, when there's candidates out there that are running for mayor that says, yeah, we're just going to force everybody into treatment and that's what we're going to do. Okay, sir, where are you going to get the beds? Where are the beds? Because I would love to tell somebody that there's a mental health services bed available for them or a substance use bed available for them, but it doesn't exist. And so I just also want to uplift that we can't just sweep people off the streets and we can't just throw people away. Really, right now, that's all that happens because there is no landing place for them. There isn't thousands of beds for people experiencing homelessness available to us. We have to build those. When I came into council, there was a member of representing this district. I didn't even have a lot of interim housing beds. I've had to build in 3.5 years over 150 new beds just to put a drop in the bucket of water. So that's a lot to say, but that's why it's also the council's responsibility to work with the county and other departments to bring in those resources if they don't exist at the city.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's really illuminating because I think a lot of folks don't know those distinctions between the city and the county. So I think that hopefully that's really helpful to listeners to understand that a little bit better. And I think something you were speaking to right now really made me think about when I look at some of your accomplishments. I think what's really clear is you talk about this care first agenda. And I think also a lot of your policies show a very principled commitment to transformative justice principles. I would love for you to expand a little bit on what a care first agenda means and looks like, and why you approach policy in that way, because that seems to be very foundational to how you govern.
Yes, and so care first means that before we send the carceral system to respond to an issue, or before we expose people to harmful departments or agencies, that we first try to address the issues with the social safety nets and the care that people deserve. And this really came from the work that I did beforehand with the organizers around stopping LA County from building 2 new jails. We said, instead of building 2 new jails, can you please invest that money into a decentralized system of care? So, like, you can access care anywhere in the county. You can that's our goal, that there would be more mental health facilities, more substance abuse and problematic substance use facilities available so that people could go, or that we would build these alternatives to incarceration or alternate types of crisis response, so that the public safety ecosystem is not just police and fire, but that we build in teams that even remove the need for the police to respond to a lot of these calls. And so that's what care first means, is addressing issues and addressing crises and preventing crises from happening in the first place. I'm going to get a little nerdy real quick.
Yeah.
There's something
Let's hear
called the
it.
intercept model. The
Mm-hmm.
intercept model that goes from 1 to like 5. Number 1 is when you need to call for an emergency. What do? You call 911, and that triggers the police or that triggers fire. But most times it triggers police. Where the city has power is before you even get to 1, which is 0. And so we have a whole model that we built through that work. But as a council member, I said I can focus on intercept 0, because that is what the alternate crisis response looks like. So unarmed crisis response teams, that is an example of care first. That instead of sending police to a person having a mental health crisis or behavioral health crisis, you can send a team that's trained in de-escalation, that can deal with cases of suicidal ideation, for example, is one of the calls that they respond to. That instead of being a gun, that it's support. And that is just one example, and that now has been made permanent in the city. We started a pilot 2 years ago. It's permanent now. And the reason why I push so hard for this particular piece of the Care First model is because Takar Smith was killed in my district my first year in office. He was having a mental health crisis, and his wife was calling for help, and instead he lost his life at the hands of LAPD. And so, but Care First exists in all the work we do, right? It's not just
Yeah.
in unarmed crisis response, it's also in how we deal with, for example, encampments of people experiencing homelessness. Instead of throwing people away, we try to and try to install policies where we support our folks who are experiencing homelessness, but also remove the trash that could be a health hazard, a biohazard, and in other ways, we try to make sure that we can instill models where we're not criminalizing our folks and supporting them instead.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's so powerful.
We have a motto, and please forgive my language, on the team that says we're going to fuck it up in a good way.
Yeah.
And that means going through bureaucracy and breaking the parts of bureaucracy that don't work for us or our people, so that we stop doing the same thing over and over again, and do things differently and be able to imagine those things. But that's very powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, you put up with a lot, putting up with a lot of really nasty ads this election cycle, and just generally being the city council member for a district that has experienced a lot of challenges. It's definitely not for the weak, but you're here and you're running again. You obviously see that the work that you've been doing deserves continuity, for real lasting change, but also that you still, if you didn't have hope, you wouldn't be running again. You still have hope. So tell me about that. Why do you still have hope? And what would you say to maybe folks, community members and residents that maybe right now don't connect with that hope, or maybe have lost that ability to really imagine that they have more power in their community than they do?
Yes, if I didn't have hope, I would not be running again, because
Yeah.
this is difficult, and everything from your safety to, like I said, you're under a magnifying glass. It's hard to go grocery shopping. It's hard even to go to restaurants or even go to, my local street vendor. But I'm running because there are moments in City Hall that happen that would have never happened if it wasn't for us fighting at that table. My career is criminal justice reform, and abolitionist policies and campaigns, and I did that over a decade before I ran for office. And that is also very hard work because you're trying to convince people that people deserve a second chance and that we shouldn't throw them away. And what I've seen is that about 10 years ago, maybe more than that, maybe like in 2013, the idea that we would have unarmed crisis response teams responding to calls that normally would go to LAPD, you would be you'd be laughed at. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. So social workers don't want to go do those calls. It has to be police. It has to be person with a gun. And to now be in a moment where the city of LA has a permanent unarmed crisis response team that just got approved to expand to an additional 6 new divisions, which means that we're only 6 divisions away from having full citywide coverage. That is what makes me believe that change is possible. We just approved creating the city's first TGI Wellness Equity Initiative, and it's $500,000. My goal was $1 million, and more than that, it's more than that. But we were able to create that, and that was fighting alongside organizations like Trans Latina Coalition and the Unarmed Crisis Response work. We fought with LA Forward alongside them to push and bring the people power to make that happen. And this work every single day feels like you're pushing up a rock, a huge 2-ton rock up a very slippery hill. But there's a block of us on the council that have made this happen. There's more people on the way that are running right now, like City Attorney candidate Marissa Roy, Kenneth Mejia's running again. You have Faiza Malik, you have Estuardo Mazariegos, all these folks running that are going to bring more hands to push that rock up. That's what gives me hope. And if they weren't coming, and if it was just going to be the same block, I don't think I would do this again because it's just taxing. But I have hope, and that's why I keep fighting, even if it's been scary with the federal immigration raids.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I was doxxed. There's things that happen. Like, it's very scary, but the universe put me here at this time, which feels like one of the most critical times of my lifetime for my community.
Yes.
So I felt like there was we couldn't step back. We needed to step forward. So yes, a lot of hope, but also like a lot of struggle too.
Yeah. ¿Y qué le dices? Like, what do you say to folks right now that can't kind of tap into to hope?
I think if you can't tap into hope, then tap into the thing that is going to have you experiencing joy. And just check in with yourself of where your levels of empathy are, because that is something that is I feels like is diminished, is diminishing in our city. And that is and not just this, like all of us are going through really hard trauma and like everything that's happening, right? So the empathy for one another is very low, and capitalism will have people feeling like you just got to keep running, and if your
For
neighbor falls
yourself.
down, you just keep running, no, whatever, don't look back. No, we need to look back, and we need to have and lift our neighbors up and have them walk with us, because that's how we survive authoritarianism.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, we were very close to martial law last year when the raids just started. This is not if and or but. No, the way we survive is by building community. So that's what
Yes.
I would say. If you don't have hope for the political system, if you don't have hope for a lot of things, get to know your neighbor, try to figure out where your levels of empathy are, and try to figure out how you can increase that
Yeah.
and pour it into yourself with joy so that your heart can still feel good things. That's what I would say.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Eunisses. So, the last conversation that I had with you in person was actually at a Mi Gente event, and you spoke to me very vulnerably about the toll of the kind of role that you were in, and the support that you seek to to be able to get through it, and to support your well-being. So and you're still here, and you're doing it, and I'm sure you've become a much more resilient and stronger person in the process, for better or worse, right? Sometimes it's like resilience. I'm like, do we always have to be so strong, right? Pero what would you say has been the hardest part of your role, and what has it taken to be able to move forward in this role and also take care and protect your well-being. Porque if we don't have that, then no podemos hacer nada, right?
Yes, yes. And I think what I've tried to do is force myself to go to things that I know will be fun, that I que no tengo ni ganas de ir,
Hmm.
but I know when I go, it'll be fun. And
Yeah.
like seeing my friends, like I don't see them enough, but my friends bring me so much joy. But like going to concerts, going to play Top Golf, like I've never wanted to, and I was like, oh. And then when I went, I had a blast. So just exploring new things. And that's what I've done to just try to feel more joy. I would say the hardest part of this job is I'm the youngest on the council. I'm the most progressive, but I'm Latina. I'm plus size. So maybe if I was more conservative, I wouldn't get as much hate as I do. But because I am the most progressive, I get so much hate for being the progressive and for being plus size. And in the beginning, that used to weigh on me. Now it's been some time, and I have developed like thicker skin, stronger skin, and I've learned what to focus on.
Yeah.
And so, it's like water off a duck's back now. But, this work will have you questioning and second guessing yourself. And it did that to me for a bit, but I had to, really relearn how to trust my gut. Relearn how to trust my gut, lean on my gut more and more and more. And that's how I think I've been able to survive so far. And, sometimes it requires you to talk to someone. Sometimes it requires, therapy. And for me, I've sought all the options just to make sure that I can, be as present and be able to fight for my folks.
Yeah.
And my dogs. I love my critters so much,
Yeah.
and they bring me a lot of joy too. I started
Yeah.
gardening, which we'll see. I don't have a green thumb, but I started growing some tomatoes during this election because I was like, I need to see something grow to
Oh,
just keep me rooted.
I really love that idea of like physically seeing something grow, both to keep you rooted and maybe also to get you in that energy of growth and transformation and
Mm-hmm.
evolution también, ¿no?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nature is our best teacher, ¿verdad?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and last thing I'll say is like I did something that I've always wanted to do, which is I went to go see the huge sequoia trees. That was on my bucket list for life, and I got to swim in one of the rivers up there, and
Hmm.
that felt like, oh gosh, my soul felt like I got rejuvenated times 100. That was everything. Those big trees.
That sounds magical, Eunisses.
Yes.
That sounds magical.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm hearing, and I think it's something we all need to get reminded of, is like how important it always is to make space for joy is one thing. Like connecting with that. Sometimes as adults we kind of forget that joy, and sometimes even that kind of that little kid energy is so important for us to be for our
Yes.
well-being and for us to be able to do hard things.
Yes.
And then the other thing you said is about being able to listen to your gut. And I think being able to listen to your gut means being able to have the spaciousness and the closeness to yourself. And like, what are the things you need to do to be able to have that closeness with yourself? And sometimes, yeah, that means therapy because then you're processing. It means having that quiet space to journal or whatever it is so that you actually can listen to yourself because you actually have to create the space for that. Porque si no, también all you're getting is messages from somewhere else unless you're actively staying close to yourself through different practices.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you spoke about being the most progressive city council member. And I'm curious, what is progressive leadership right now? What does it look like in practice in LA? Because I think, in light of this current administration, in light of a lot of things, what does it actually feel like?
What it feels like? Well, I think a lot of people say that they're progressive. But for me, what it means and what it means right now is being the truth teller, is having the courage to push against the systems that don't work for us truly in all the ways. And right now, what it means is that you, as a council member, having to put the mirror up to my colleagues to say, please, like, if we're going to do anything transformative, it needs to be now while the federal government is ripping apart our families. We need to step in and fill that with resources, with money, with time, with whatever we can, changing the laws, however we can to support them. And that so Marines right now, if you're progressive, you're in war mode. You're fighting. You are in the front. You are and not just fighting what's happening against the federal government or what the federal government is doing to us, but fighting against the fires that we're going through every day, which is the unaffordability of living here. of the housing unaffordability, on the fact that we give 45% of our general funds to the LAPD, and they're cutting senior meals and after school programs while we're buying more police uniforms. Those are the things that we have to fight for, that we have power over. So that locally, that's what it means to me. And it also means not relying on those systems that, are the special interests making money off our communities. And so making sure that as you're running, that you're not taking money from corporations, special interests, oil, that will, influence or buy your vote. You have short-term rental companies like Airbnb pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into council races. Why? Why? Because they want to make more of our housing stock Airbnb. What does that mean? That people will get evicted. So that's, I think, what it means to be progressive is to stand up against a corporate. Not be like, you can be a Democrat, but not a corporate Democrat, right? Like right now, we are a majority Democratic state, but we are corporate Democrats. So that's not progressive. That's being bought off. So we need to be truly rooted in community and pushing for that as much as we can against the systems that harm us.
Yeah, thank you, Eunisses. I have one segment that I want to close us out with that we call Mete o Saca. So I know I didn't let you know beforehand, but so Mete is something that, and you can choose either one or you can do both. So Mete is something that you want to invite into your life.
Yes.
And then Saca is something that you want to let go. So anything that comes up for you right now, anything that you want to mete o saca. This can be, o sea, silly. It can be, o sea, however you want to interpret what you want to invite in or let go right now.
Let's see. I want to invite, how about this? A movie marathon. That's what I want to invite. And I know that sounds corny, but I need some sci-fi. I need some fantasy.
Yes.
I need to go into another space. And that's what I'm inviting, a good movie or a good movie marathon.
Okay. What would be a few movies in your movie marathon?
The Batman series, like the Batman Rise, the one with the 3 series with the Joker with Heath Ledger.
With Heath Ledger. Okay.
Those 3 Batman movies, like Night Rises or something like that. Those 3 movies I want to watch again. I Harry Potter and Twilight. So if I do a marathon, it'll be with
those 3 movies, those 3 series. Yeah.
I know it's corny. I don't care. That's what helps bring my nervousness down and just again, it's that feeling of being able to just relax and nostalgia. Yeah. So that's what I bring in, a good movie marathon. And then que saco all the people. Let me see. I'm trying to be careful. Right now, there's a lot of language being used around some of our most vulnerable community members. Yeah. Dehumanizing language. Putting people down and treating them like all they are is what their issue is. And people are more than that. And so I want to sacar all that dehumanizing energy and bring in some of that empathy. So I know I already said bring it, but if I could do that switch, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Take that out and bring in empathy.
Yeah. Sacar dehumanizing people and defining them by their conditions or anything like that, and inviting in empathy for who we all are as humans and that we all struggle with so many things, ¿verdad?
Yeah, some of us just have a house to struggle in,
Yeah.
Or an apartment to struggle in,
right? To struggle in, pero like yeah. No, thank you. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to give you an opportunity if there's anything you didn't get to share or how folks can support you, where they can support you, anything else you want to share with the audience. This episode will come out a few days before the election on June 2nd.
Thank you. Well, I would just want to say is that we need people to go out and vote. Right now, most of the people that have voted in this district and in this city are 55 years and up. And these folks usually have, more stability. They have their homes. Young people, I need you to come out and vote. If you want to be able to afford to live in this city, you need to have people who are going to fight for that affordability. And so I'm fighting for that. There's other colleagues and other people that are running that are fighting for that. But it's not going to happen if you don't vote. Please go vote. June 2nd, go vote in person. If you have a ballot that you're voting by mail, submit it before June 2nd. Literally, Trump has been doing work to stop midterm elections. So we all need to go out there and vote for your interests, not for the interests of rich people, corporations, or developers or landlords.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Eunisses. This has been such a pleasure. I appreciate you for joining us, Councilmember Eunisses Hernandez. Keeping it real is always about organizing, about fighting for our community, about pushing for change from, inside bureaucracy. Just appreciate all that you do. I know, as we said earlier, it's not for the weak, so just appreciate your commitment to community and to change. And y'all, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, share it with your primas, friends, todos, because this is how we uplift our message and we get the message across as we have to share, we have to support each other, y'all. So thank you so much, Eunisses, for joining us on Las Paleteras.
Thank you, Ana Sheila. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Take care. Adios.